Earth and its terror tentacles.
This is episode 127, recorded November 18th, 2020.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doug Rodden, and this is podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Let's bring in some more folks, shall we? Brink. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. You'd think after all these years I'd know that up by heart, but I don't. Tonight we review Space Amoeba, also known as YOG, the monster from space. We're going kaiju, folks. We're going kaiju. Yeah. One of the classics, or not so classic film. With me this week is the wonderful man himself, Father Christmas. Yes, it's Jeff Mohr.
YOG.
YOG.
He needs the language.
Yes.
We got a YOG here.
It
Somebody's
is
yogging over here.
It's great to be here in the land of foam rubber football mascots.
Nice. Man in suit. All right. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and yes, all around nice guy.
Hey,
how you doing, Bill?
I'm doing all right. This was a nice little flashback because this took me back to being in a movie theater watching this movie on the big screen.
In 1971.
Ooh, wow.
In the US. Yeah. It came out in 70, but the States didn't get it until 71, which, is a par for course for these movies. Yeah. All right. Also joining us tonight is Chad Hunt, comic book artist, co-host of Decades of Horror, the Classic Era. How you doing, sir?
I am awesome. And it's Kaiju Night.
Kaiju Night. That sounds like a movie. It's the Kaiju Nights.
It does. Trademark Chad Hunt. Decades of Horror, 1970.
Yes. All right. If you haven't figured this out, we're doing Space Amoeba.
And that's all it takes.
Oh my God.
Seriously.
Let's do the little card and get into this, shall we? All right. YOG, Monster from Space. I'm trying to remember which one I knew this one as first, because by now it's all just kind of the same thing. Released in the States August 4th, 1971. Came out August 1st, 1970 in Japan. It's directed by Ishirô Honda, written by Ogawa, and the cast includes Akira Kubo, Atsuko Takahashi, Yukiko Kabayashi. The tagline you heard at the beginning of the show: "Speed from intergalactic space to clutch the planet Earth in its terror tentacles." Try saying that. Chad, you did an amazing job. The space probe is infiltrated by alien beings and then crashes in a remote Pacific atoll. A group planning to build a resort hotel land on the island as well, and discover it to be inhabited by giant mutant monsters created by the aliens in an attempt to conquer the world. What with this kaiju movie? Do kaiju movies get better than that? Well, yeah, but this movie,
of course they do, Doc.
Of course. This movie is kind of special. For me, we'll get into all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into when did we first see this movie? We're going to talk about the movie, and we're going to end up with our thoughts. And then Jeff is here with some listener feedback. You're going to want to stick around for that. It's got some cool stuff in that. But what I want to know is what you guys thought of this when you first saw this. And Chad, my brother, you and I both have been putting this on the list for years, and it'll get kicked to the curb. It finally made it. I know why I wanted to see it. Why did you want to see it? But when did you first see it, and what's your first impression of this movie?
I saw it as a kid, and I'm a huge kaiju fan, Godzilla especially, and the sillier they got as a kid, the better I liked them. And you want silly, you got it here with the YOG, space monster. I love this movie. I love it. And what got my attention was I was all into when I was a kid. It was dinosaurs and octopus and squid and tentacly things that swam in the ocean and stuff. I was just fascinated with them. So to see a giant squid kaiju was just, the little 10-year-old me, 8-year-old me, however old I was when I saw this, was just a dream come true. And I can't remember. I know I saw it on TV. I can't remember if it was some late night TV show or whatever. But I remember scouring the TV guide for this. Anywhere it would come on, I would have my little ink pen circling whenever it would come on. Each week we got the TV guide. I was looking for this movie. I just loved it so much. It's typical kaiju fare. It's nearly as serious as Honda's 1954 Godzilla by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just a fun kaiju movie. And I still love watching it to this day. It just reverts me back to that little kid sitting in front. I remember sitting in front of the TV with a gigantic bowl of popcorn and a Coke in a bottle, drinking Coke, and watching this movie. And it just brings back, it's not great. It's not great, but it's fun and still is fun for me to watch even now, because it kind of takes me back to that. And that's the merit of it. It has its own merit, and that's it for me. Some people go, "Oh, you're just reminiscing on good." Yeah, I sure the hell am reminiscing on good time.
Yes.
So I love it. I love this movie. I love the creatures in it. I think the creatures. I love the crab monster. I love the squid. I love all these monsters, and was sad to. I know they appeared in a couple of more movies later on.
Not as much as you.
Not as much. No major roles or anything, but they made little appearances here and there. So, but yeah, it's still a good, fun movie for me to watch, and that's why it's been on the to watch list for so long, for years now. I think for us to do this and Slime People, I think is another one. So yeah, still love it. Still good. It still leaves a good impression on me, and leaves me happy after I watch it. So
leaves you happy after you watch it. That's what you want out of a movie, right? All right.
Yeah.
Let's turn this over to Jeff Mohr. Jeff, when did you first see this? And I don't know if you're a fan of kaiju films, so answer that question as well.
I don't know if I am or not either.
I bet you watch some crappy ones, that's for sure.
Well, I haven't seen all that many of them. I love it. It's amazing to me that pretty much the same people that made the original Godzilla made this film. Yeah. Because they're like a million miles apart in terms of message and quality. But
there was no message or quality.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to walk in a foam rubber octopus suit. Maybe, I don't know. Actually the first time I saw this was about a year ago. And it's to me anyway, it's just silly. It's just silly. Everything is overacted. The dialogue is terrible. Anything in the plot is unbelievable, and it's like the worst example of English dubbing for Japanese actors. And the words they put in their mouths, I don't know if they match their lips all that much, but it doesn't match their facial expressions or their hand motions at all, and it's the typical, you say something really fast and then you go, ha 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 ha. And then you just go, what the hell? But yeah. I did get kind of a kick out of I don't know what that one thing was. I thought they called it like a Stegosaurus bat monster, but it
looked like a
turtle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spiny turtle. So yeah, that was kind of a fun fight there between the turtle and the crab. I know they got names, but
Sounds like a kid's book, doesn't it?
yes, yeah. So yeah, it's a fun movie. It's not too long. You know, don't expect a whole lot. I just got a big kick out of them. You know, they'd be standing there on the beach talking, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, and there's the octopus, not all that far away, standing up, the giant octopus standing up on the beach.
He's stealthy.
Notice that coming in. Yeah. I particularly loved when the crab got his eyes shot out, and then at the end of the movie, they were grown back, apparently. But anyway.
Regeneration.
It's fun. You know, it's fun. And I think it would be, I mean, they have whole TV shows now where they have people doing stuff like those guys, the suit actors did, you know, those guys, the crab and the turtle put the suit on and they just go wrestling, throwing each other around. And I bet they're laughing their ass off while they're doing that. Maybe not. Maybe they're being real serious trying to do good, but it would be, especially if I was a kid, that would be a riot.
Well, this is Toho Studio System. This is the last one. This is the final Toho Studio film.
Oh, really?
In the studio system, Toho, of course, you know, kept going. Yeah, if you don't remember, you know, those who are listening, you know, up until the 70s, really, you know, studios had very strict regulations on how they handled things. You know, people were contract players, and they had all kinds of what they call the studio system, and that got kind of shifted as the 70s came on. So this was Toho's last one. So I don't think they were laughing at all. These guys were like, they were serious about being in this rubber suit.
It's fun. I don't have the same experience you guys have with it, but it's fun.
It's fun. All right, let's find out what. Yes, Bill Mulligan, Hunter from the future.
Yeah.
When did you first see this, and what is your impression of it? I know you're a Kaiju fan, sir.
Am I a Kaiju fan? My email is.
Yep. Do you want to give that out?
Well, it includes the word Kaiju.
There you go.
and AOL.com. I'm a lot less proud of that part.
No chance of anybody trying to seek that out.
Yeah. So
no one could ever hack that. AOL.
Yeah. But I love Kaiju stuff. I've always loved it. This is not top tier, but now I don't know exactly what year I saw this, but it was on a double bill with Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
Well, and those are two bizarre movies. This is not the movies you would use to introduce someone to the Kaiju thing, because they're going to get the wrong idea. Those are very kind of oddball entries in the franchise, especially Smog Monster. I mean, of the two, this was the more reasonable, rational, logical movie. It's not great. I had fun at the time. How could you not have fun? It's basically big rubber monsters slapping each other. I'm pretty sure the actors were not laughing their ass off. I think the expression would be sweating their balls off, because apparently at the end of every day, they would just get them out of the suit and then pour the liters of sweat out, which is just so horrifying. I kind of forgot all about this movie until years later, when people started making like mixtapes, video party tapes.
Wow.
And that dang giant cuttlefish is just a classic. It is so weird, just sort of plopping around, and his head looks like it's about to come off, and his googly eyes are going both ways. And there's just something, but it's so wonderful that he's by far the best monster. I don't really care about the lobster. And the turtle, I loved Gamera. I loved Gamera when I was a kid, almost as much as I love Godzilla. And I was thinking, well, here's Toho's Gamera, but what does he do? He's a turtle. His neck goes out and his neck goes back in. He's not a threat.
Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah, but this. And then later on, I discovered this was done by Honda. This is done by a real director, a guy who's the guy for kaiju movies, and a great director in his own right. I mean, people don't realize he worked for Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. Kurosawa had a high opinion of him toward the end, especially when Kurosawa was going blind. Honda apparently really directed some of his last films, or at least parts of them. And if Kurosawa thinks you're a good director, that's something, this man did a lot of great work. This is not top tier Kurosawa. Top tier Honda.
It's not
But-
it's definitely not top tier.
Not top tier, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's little known, but Kurosawa did Latitude Zero. No, he did nothing of the kind. Although he probably would have if they offered it to him.
Oh, have you? Man, that movie. Wow.
Yeah, there were some. I mean, they would do weird things with these movies, and this one is fairly standard. But it's for a kid. If you're a kid, how could you not love this movie?
Mhm.
It's people on an island for whatever reason, and there's monsters showing up, aliens who want to take over the world. And if you're an alien and you want to take over the world, obviously the logical way to do it is to make giant monsters that will trash the place, and then I guess you just sort of slip in and take over what's left, rule over the rubble. Although, frankly, if this is what's going to happen, they didn't even rule over a bunch of Aborigines and some tourists on an island without getting their butts kicked. So I'm thinking, as far as take over the world, not going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
No.
They gave it the old college try, though.
Yeah, they gave it the old college try. And meanwhile, literally, a bunch of amateurs were able to beat them with some leftover gasoline from World War II. So if they went up against the Marines, I think I know how that story would end, and it would be pretty quick.
Okay. I'm not so sure about that, but we'll go with that. All right. Okay. So this movie has an interesting history for me. I really didn't see it until much later, and it was kind of one of those ones I always wanted to see, but I couldn't find it. I never could find it. I couldn't find, DVDs. I probably could have found a one of those bootleg ones, but I never got to that, and it just never. That would never be the movie I was going out looking for, but I've always had it in my. Now I'll tell you why. It's because those monster books that I always bring up, those coffee table monster books, had great pics of, you call it. I call it a squid, but you call it a cuttlefish.
Cuttlefish.
More like a cuttlefish, and the crabs and everything, and they just looked fantastic. It was like, wow, we knew what Godzilla looked like. We knew what some of his, other. Ghidorah and Ghidorah and all the others, right? We knew what they looked like, but this was like, what is this? This looks great. So it was one I always wanted to see. Now, when I finally did see it, I actually finally saw it like on TMC maybe, or TCM, Turner Classic Movies late at night one night or something. And I was like, but at the same time, I kind of fell in love with it. Because it is so bad, and Smog Monster is one of my favorite Godzilla movies. So that would have been such a great double feature. Yeah. Smog Monster I love because how bizarre it is. Like a kind of stuff spinning. Yeah, I think Ultraman did that to me because of the beginning of Ultraman. Yeah. But this movie, and I loved Ultraman. And this movie has a strong Ultraman 60s feel to it.
Yeah.
Especially that turtle just feels like he walked off, he was like, this guy's too good for Ultraman. Let's bring him into this movie. But he's still not quite good enough for the movie. But he's better than the Ultraman. Godzilla, well, that's a different story, but Godzilla actually made an appearance in one of the early Ultraman scenes.
But he had that fin, which is like the equivalent of a fake mustache, fooling nobody.
He had Superman's mustache on, and they ripped it off though. Ripped it off.
Ultraman's a dick. I just want to throw that out there. Ultraman is a complete dick. I was rooting for the monsters the whole time.
Yeah.
He is sort of snooty in his monster killing.
Yeah, and he always waited to the last minute.
Yeah.
Wait 20 minutes for his little sorry ass to come.
Let me do this. I could have done that in the first 3 seconds and ended this fight, but no, want to stretch it out.
All right, but this one has it all. It's got multiple monsters. They come 1, 2, 3, and then they fight, a couple of them fight at the end. We've got this, we've got the human bad guy running around who gets amoeba up his butt, and he becomes one of the, he does. He literally does. Come on, you saw it,
Mr. Roboto. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Is this movie good? Technically, no.
What is good?
But is it a lot of fun? Hell yeah! Oh my god, I had such a great time watching this again. I was just having a ball. What I love about this movie, it's okay, and this is totally off topic and probably will throw everything I have to say about this movie out the window for me. But it's one of those movies that you don't necessarily have to sit there and focus on the entire time. You know, you can kind of look at your phone,
let your brain wander.
You know, write some stuff down, look at something.
Yeah, it's not a very dense plot.
No, but it moves along fairly. I mean,
you're not going to miss any nuances if you're not paying close attention.
There's been, there's a couple of these ones that I'll just fall out. I'll be asleep before I know it, and I'll miss the entire cool part because it's just like
Fury of the Wolfman.
well, no, I'm talking about just Kaiju.
Yeah.
Is one too.
When was the cool part there, Bill? Oh yeah, the trailer.
And this one I don't fall asleep. This is a dumb but adorable movie. It's just
adorable.
It's very much a kid. It's a kid's movie.
But you know what? It is, but it has some adult themes in it. But
there's some stuff in there for adults, but it's very much a kid's flick. I mean,
it's a kid's movie, but it's not as much like the worst Revenge of Godzilla.
Right.
Where clearly, this is grown-ups doing grown-up things, but in a way that a kid could relate to. So you guys, you were saying you don't remember if you saw it as I had no idea that it was called Space Amoeba. That was brand new to me. I thought it was a new film when people started talking about Space Amoeba. And I discovered it was always YOG monster.
So explain to me what the hell that means. Who's YOG?
Who knows?
Who cares?
The amoeba.
The word YOG never comes out of anybody's mouth.
No. But as a title, it's great because
I think when the amoeba went up the guy's butt, he went YOG. I think that might have been right.
Right.
We all went YOG at the same time. Oh,
Chad, back me up on this. When you were a kid, I mean, when I was a kid at least, Marvel used to publish these monster magazines. They were all reprints. It was like where monsters dwell, where creatures roam,
creatures on the loose.
And they were always exactly the same. The cover would be like usually a Jack Kirby cover. A monster is stomping through the city, and everyone's like, "Oh no, flee from the hoo-ha!" And they're like, "The hoo-ha, the thing that walked around like he owned the place."
And Stanley had a bowl of alphabets cereal. And he would whatever came out in the spoon. That's what he named the latest monster. And
that's where
Tales of Astonish
came from.
Groot came from there.
And
come on.
YOG Monster from Space is the Marvel comic that should have been published. I mean, he clearly would have fit right in there. And so I love that title. That's just a great pulpy title. Does an actual YOG ever show up? Not so much. Maybe I don't know, but. Space Amoeba. Is there anything less scary than an amoeba?
Well, that's what they did. They didn't want to call it cloud of purple fairy dust.
Right. That's even less scary than an amoeba. You're right. I stand corrected. That would have been worse.
Purple fairy dust conquers the world. It's a shame that Destroy All Monsters came out before this because wouldn't these guys be fun on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was a shame. We never really got this in the mix, but it feels like a small little helping of Destroy All Monsters. Right? Yeah. 3 of them instead of all of them. Oh man.
No, I was just going to say it's kind of unique in that it doesn't necessarily take place in the same universe with Godzilla. I mean, toward the end, all the movies were connected together, at least using the same characters. And YOG, these folks look like they've never seen a giant monster ever, which being Japanese seems unlikely. But so it was interesting if they were, but
that's the island where it's rumored where they're all from, right?
Yeah,
that's what they said. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
I interrupted your train of thought.
I know. I was just thinking that, what is it? Ghidorah gained notoriety because of its appearance as the first boss in Nintendo's Godzilla Monsters video game and had a brief appearance in Godzilla Final Wars. Kameebus also had a cameo as a carcass washed ashore in Tokyo SOS. Now, we got to figure out which one's which, right? If we're going to do all that.
The first one I think is the squid.
Yeah, Ghidorah is the squid. But you're right. It's actually a kisslip cuttlefish.
Kisslip cuttlefish.
Hey, whatever. I'm a science teacher. I know these things.
What?
Is that a squid? No.
It's
a kisslip?
Kisslip.
Kisslip.
Yeah. I've seen these guys in the Asian markets.
Just hanging there all dried, staring at you like,
well, I'm frozen, but that's okay. Hanging there
with
trying.
with incredibly lifelike eyes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, Ganymedes is the
Lobster,
the lobster.
which they call a crab, but
They say it's a rubble crab, but it looks like a lobster. And then Camebus is the turtle, which does have. I mean, okay, so Camebus, if I'm pronouncing that anywhere near what it's pronounced, he actually looks very much like a Ultraman creature, doesn't he? Very much, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's where they got the amoeba from. Only it should have been Space Amoeba.
Space
Only,
Amoeba.
I don't know. It's I'm stretching.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't. Do we bother going through all the characters or anything? I mean, we really should talk about Ishirô Honda and focus on Honda because this guy, he did a lot of great work. And this is not his last film. His last film was part of or all of Terra Mechagodzilla.
Well, I think that was his last kaiju film. Yeah, you're right. I think that's maybe the last one that he was officially director on.
Right.
Yeah.
But he did like all the most of the originals, right? These are all just kaiju films. Rodan, Mysterians, Veyron, Mothra, King Kong versus Godzilla, which might be my absolute favorite one. Even though it's you know what it is.
Okay, help me out a little bit because Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, those are fairly serious movies. When did they turn into this?
Godzilla versus King Kong. Kind of
okay.
Yeah. As it went into the 70s more, they started to get a little bit more kid friendly and a little more serious.
I think the turning point was Monster Zero, where Godzilla did the little dance after he beat.
Yeah.
That's where.
They got sillier and sillier as they went along, but with King Kong versus Godzilla, they started appealing to the younger audience. They realized that the younger audiences really like it, so you'll start seeing it get degrade more and more. But by the 70s, it was purely a kids film.
Yeah.
Like you said, Son of Godzilla,
Mecha Godzilla.
But Latitude Zero is like crazy. Like
it's
what the hell is that?
Insane.
And then I saw Dagora for the first time this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. I mean, they would do things like that. That's basically a crime movie, like a crime film with monsters tossed in there.
Yeah.
You could have taken the monsters out and changed a couple things and had it perfectly.
Which one was that, Doc?
Dagora, the space monster.
Dagora, Dogora. Dagora.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then he did, of course, Frankenstein versus Baragon.
Yeah.
King Kong Escapes. That's a weird one too. That's where we get that weird bad guy. He's a very weird.
Doctor Who.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, that's his name anyway.
Oh yeah. But man,
he did a lot of really fun stuff, and he was good at it. Godzilla. I mean, the original Gojira is a great film. I think just an amazing film. They changed after that. I mean, and who would want? We don't need to have Gojira over and over again. It told the story it needed to tell, and if they were going to continue the series, it couldn't just be a somber reflection on the nuclear age. It had to be monsters slapping each other, and that's exactly where they went to with the next one, with what we had as Gigantus, the fire monster. Yeah. It was just, let's have more monsters and beat each other up and more and introduce more and more, and then finally destroy all monsters. They all show up and beat up Ghidorah. And that was like the greatest film ever when I was a certain age. You said, what's the greatest movie ever? Citizen Kane, maybe Gone with the Wind. No, Destroy All Monsters pretty much covered all the bases. Absolutely.
And we learned a lot about him. We dug into him a lot on Classic Era when we covered Godzilla 54. And he was responsible for a lot of they call them tokusatsu films, which were more science fiction, superhero-y based movies like the Mysterians and those type of movies too. So he was very prolific.
Have you ever seen Mantango?
Matanga?
Yeah, mushroom people.
Mushroom, oh my God, I love that.
Absolutely, yeah.
That movie is just so bizarre. Now that one takes a while to get to where I want it to be.
Yeah.
That one tests my patience from time to time. But when it gets there, when they start moving around, they look great.
Yeah.
I don't know what else can we say about this. It kind of doesn't allow for a lot of in depth unless we.
Well,
really... Jeff,
as a newbie to this film, I got a big kick out of the way the squid costume was designed around the guy's feet, the suit actor, because his feet come down, and then the tentacles go at a right angle to take in his foot. As soon as it gets past his toes, it turns into like a genie slipper that curls up. You know, But strangely enough, unless you see that in profile, you don't notice
it looks good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy to laugh. It's such a goofy monster in the way he walks in. But actually, I thought they did a fantastic job with that suit. He's by far my favorite of the three monsters, no question about it. And there's a reason why he's just so popular with, like I said, with mixtapes and things, because he's just a lot of fun. The others, I didn't realize, just thinking now, the one thing about all three of these monsters have in common is they're pretty tasty, sauteed up with a little bit of butter. Turtles, squid, lobster. Yeah, I'm good with all of that. I wouldn't eat a turtle. I would not eat a turtle. Please, no letters. I love turtles.
You would not eat a turtle?
I would not eat a turtle. Now, if there were the last lobster on Earth, like this would literally drive the species to extinction, and I had a pot of boiling water. Sorry. Turtle. I love lobster. Love lobster. And squid, if it's cooked right, pretty good, but it's got to be cooked right.
Calamari.
Yeah, calamari. That's right. Yeah.
So I'm confused. Why not turtles? Just like because it's more like a pet thing.
I love reptiles. I've always loved reptiles, and I always feel bad for turtles.
I love them too with linguine.
It's an amphibian.
Turtles are
not an amphibian.
Turtles are delicious. We used to eat turtles in Florida.
They are not an amphibian. Huh?
No, you guys all slept through biology, didn't
you? Amphibians, turtles don't breathe water.
Oh, they can't
do amphibians.
They can. Some can. Amphibians at some point. Boy, we're taking a weird turn here.
Welcome to DOH. Show your ignorance.
They have to lay their eggs in water.
In
their early larval stage, they usually have gills, and then they lose the gills later on and go on land.
So that's the. Sure. Now, can you be amphibious and not be an amphibian?
You can be amphibious.
All right, so turtles are amphibious.
Some are, I guess, not box turtles.
So we could eat.
Neither was the band. So what?
Back to. Well, what about frogs? Would you eat frogs? Never mind.
Sure. Oh yeah, I've had frogs.
Frog legs. Come on. All right.
I did want to mention. I don't know these guys because most of their names I have a hard time recognizing. But Kenji Sahara is in a ton of these, and he is in the original Godzilla or Gojira.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this cast.
He plays Mr. Obata, the guy who sacrifices. He kills himself to save the world.
In which movie? Oh, that's right. Yes. In
this one, he jumps off the cliff into the lava.
Yeah. Which is kind of a trope in these movies. I mean, if you go back all the way to the original Gojira, the doctor there sacrifices.
Sarazawa. Was it Sarazawa?
I think it was.
That sounds right.
He still gets mentioned today. He's in the latest, the last movie.
Yeah.
It was mentioned. All right, and now there's also music. We could talk about music because, and Chad, I know you're a huge fan of Mothra and the songs.
Yeah. This is the first time I noticed a few little notes from the Mothra song in there.
The Islanders are singing the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I thought they were also doing some of King Kong versus Godzilla in that too. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I noticed this movie has a lot of recycled music.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like because I love the guy who does. Yeah. But even later on, I mean, there were movies that came out after this, like Terror of Mechagodzilla has some of my favorite Godzilla music in it. I mean, yeah, they use the same themes, but they would change some stuff around everything. And I really liked some of that. But this one just seems like they really were kind of padding things with what they had, which I guess does save money.
Was that a Ikafube? Is that how you
Yes. Yeah. And I love his stuff.
Yeah, love it. And one of my favorite things to do in these kaiju movies is figure out where the man is in the costume.
Oh yeah.
So some of them are pretty obvious, but ones like the crab monster, I was like, how did they do that? And then there was some scenes when he's on his back, and you can tell pretty much how they did it. But that's always a fun thing for me to do.
Yeah.
Space amoeba. I always think that the cuttlefish is the space amoeba, but it's not, right?
Right.
No.
Right.
It's actually the fairy dust, the purple fairy dust Jeff was talking about.
Now
that was kind of cool. I kind of like that concept. But
the guy who was in the cuttlefish is the great, and I may be mispronouncing his name, and I greatly apologize. Haruo Nakajima, who was the original Godzilla. And I got to meet him before he passed away.
Yeah, cool.
It was one of my treasured convention memories to meet him and get. He was, getting on in years. His granddaughter, I think, was with him. He never spoke any English, but she translated for him, and he was there giving it his all. And I got an autograph. I got my Godzilla poster autographed by him, and got a picture with him. He was a man who was interested. He was modest and yet very proud of the work he'd done. He not boastful or anything, but would tell the stories, and clearly had a real sense of pride, because it was brutal in those costumes, especially the early ones when they didn't know how to make them. And tells about the time he's in the Rodan costume, suspended on the wires break. He lands on the miniature city, probably part of a pagoda, piercing his aorta. I mean, just all kinds of terrible things would happen. They're shooting fireworks at him. The missiles that are bouncing off are fireworks. You're in a rubber suit, rubber burns, and it's made out of oil, and they're shooting fireworks at you. And sometimes you'd even see in the movies, sometimes Godzilla would get hit by something and it would stick there, and you see little bits of flame, and you're like, oh boy. So that was a blast, and I thought he did a great job in that suit. I mean, it's interesting acting. Wrestling on its own is a challenge, and wrestling when you've got God knows how many pounds of suit on you, I'm sure you can't see. I can't see any scenario where you can actually see out of that thing. So they say action. You start lumbering through the cardboard, and then another giant piece of rubber slams into you. I don't know how they accomplished anything, but yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
right up to the end.
That's getting back to Honda. That's one of the cool things about him, is he can do a movie like this, and yet do something as serious as Godzilla 54 and some of the other stuff that he did too. We covered Half Human. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Half Human on Classic Era. Just what an amazing movie that is. To me, it was anyway. Yeah, one I'd never seen before until we covered it on Classic Era. And just an amazing film. And what they were able to he was able to get by with on the effects and stuff like that, and the creature effects and stuff was just, for the time, was amazing stuff. So he's he can do this silly type stuff, but he's just, I guess, just shows how good his range is. Go from such serious subject matter to this kind of stuff.
I don't know if that's changed, but when we did that, there was no good versions of Half Human out there. That was one. It had been banned apparently in Japan for a long time.
It had to do with the native people.
The way they were portrayed,
how they were portrayed in the movie. But what a great film.
Unfortunate. I feel like when they switched from the black and white to color is when things got a little sillier. That the black and white just gives such a mood. The original Gojira has a mood. If that movie were in color, it would not have the same impact. And I think when they went to color, and I guess it was King Kong versus Godzilla was the first color Godzilla movie.
Was it The Thing? Or was The Thing after King Kong?
I think The Thing was after King Kong.
Okay.
But that's when things got a little sillier. And I guess the other thing is their suit technology got good enough that they could do the real wrestling acrobatics and everything. They never, the original Godzilla, the suit was so dreadfully immobile. They had to cut it in half, and he performed either with just the feet or just the torso. So there was not going to be any wrestling in a movie like that. He could barely walk. But once they got that down, then it's like, okay, Ultraman's time. So
Yeah. What is it? Gigantic Fire Monsters. That's the second one, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's not very good. It's not very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it didn't really work as well.
No.
Oh man. It still didn't stop him being popular. And then
No.
Mothra came out. Mothra was in color, wasn't it?
The original Mothra, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mothra came out a couple years before King Kong.
I don't know if Rodan was. I'm thinking
Rodan was in color. I've seen it. I don't know if it was colorized when I saw it, but I know.
God, I thought that was black and white.
And that was
You probably know better than I do.
Talk about a somber movie. Rodan is a real downer. The ending. Yeah. But so those early ones are pretty serious. And if you want to be a kaiju snob, those when it went to kids, it was over. But if it hadn't gone to the more kids stuff, there wouldn't have been the franchise. We would have gotten all these things. You know, if they weren't willing to go silly, they never would have come up with Ghidorah, because Ghidorah is just a trip.
I walked 5 miles to a theater to see Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Inframan. So
wow.
That's how much I loved.
Uphill both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, both hills in molasses.
I believe there was snow.
You're what?
January.
You're what?
Yeah.
And you're what?
Wow.
In my YOG.
My YOG.
See,
you guys are right.
Kids,
Rodan was color. I'm sorry.
Okay.
To jump in, but
for those kids out there, there was a time when your parents actually would allow you to walk 5 miles anywhere without having a police escort and everything, because we weren't raised like freaking veal. Okay, we were allowed to like disappear for hours at a time, and they didn't call the cops. Some of us never came back. That was the risk you took, but it was still a better way to grow up. Yeah. This is your episode of Old Man Yelling at Clouds, episode 352.
Or you told your mom you're going over to Gary's house, and you went 5 miles away to the botanical park to swing on the rope across the river. You know?
Sure, whatever.
It happens. It happens. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's go ahead, because we got some really cool feedback to get to. Let's just say, what can we say? Just give us your final thoughts. Let's wrap it up. And do we want to pick a favorite scene? I kind of feel like what? All right. What I want to know, in your final thoughts, what is so special about this movie to you? What impression to you did it make to really just kind of say, this is why.
This is why.
That's going to be fun, right? That's going to be
for me. It was the creatures. I just thought the creatures were. I'd already seen Godzilla versus Ibira, the sea monster, which I thought this was kind of a rip-off of Ibira a little bit. But the creatures were really, like I said, I was really fascinated with sea life, and especially great white sharks and octopus and those kind of things. So, and anything with tentacles. So this cuttlefish monster was new to me, and I just was digging it really a lot, as a kid. And I don't know, there's just something about the lobster was really creepy to me as a kid, especially living in Florida. You step in 2 feet of water, you're stepping on something spiny and and that kind of thing. But it made it special because I just for the main fact that I had so much fun the first time I watched it, and it takes me back to that whenever I watch it now, and every time I've seen it since then. It's just a fun time. It's still fun. This is a fun movie. If you like kaiju movies, this is just a fun movie. I mean, it's bad. I mean, there's a lot of bad kaiju movies that you have fun watching, and this is one of them. It's incredibly fun, and it just takes me back to how I felt as a kid watching it.
Perfect. All right, Jeff Mohr. Jeff Mohr, who is relatively fresh to kaiju love.
Get out of my yard, you kids!
Get your kaiju out of my yard.
Okay, he's lifting up kaiju. I'm keeping it.
I'm just going to say the same thing. It's fun, and I mean everything from Rico walking around like in a coma or catatonic state or something half the time, and then when he does wake up, he runs screaming Then
He just had YOG in his butt.
they're talking to somebody else, and they're trying to get him to. Oh, when they first show up on the island, they're trying to get the guy to tell him what he saw, and he's like, leave me alone. I ain't forget about it. That they, but really over exaggerated. And then the chief Ambo, just I don't know, the woman that falls in love with Obata, who ends up being the bad guy. At least that's the way I took it. She inexplicably got starry-eyed every time she saw him, even though he was possessed by YOG, I guess, the Space Amoeba. So anyway, it's just fun. It's got a lot of cliches that you think of Japanese movies with the dubbing and the voices and stuff, but the monsters are fun too. If I had to say what I enjoyed the most was I loved it when the monsters came out of the water. It glowed purple and then started bubbling and gushing, and I thought, I bet they had a cool thing to make that water come, bubbling and gushing up there.
I could have swore that was Olivia Newton-John doing the voice of that one girl. It sounded Australian to me.
Yeah, she did.
That's crazy. All right, Bill. Kaiju King here.
Now, unlike Chad, I wasn't into hentai and tentacles and everything when I was a kid.
Hentai? That's a different story.
Well,
I didn't even know what that was at 10 years old.
Yeah, well, I was precocious. Anyway, but I love monsters. Then as now, I'm a simple guy. You tell me there's monsters in a movie. You put the word monster in the title and have a TV ad that's basically just a bunch of shots of monsters, no humans at all. Who needs them? Yeah, I'm going to be there. Take my money. And yeah, it does take me back to what it was like back then, going to a theater with a bunch of other kids. It was just all kids in there. There were no people like me. That would have been creepy. And I think that's one of the changes now. There are no movies like that for kids anymore. You go there now and it's a bunch of nerds like us, just sitting around watching these things. I don't know if these kids today grow up with these wonderful bad films, and it's a gateway into other better or worse films. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Put your brain on hold, like Doc said. You can do your taxes while you're watching YOG.
Yeah, basically.
But it's fun, and it has its place. It's not the cream of the crop in kaiju films, but it's certainly and I'll give him credit for trying something different at a time when things were winding down and it was just basically one let's get one more Godzilla film out of this suit before it falls apart. They tried something different here, so give them credit for that.
Yeah. Well, okay. I love kaiju movies. I love monster movies. King Kong, Harryhausen films. The bigger the monster, the more I love it. And but what I really found myself kind of gravitating toward, after once you realize, oh, Godzilla's it, and you see all these Godzilla movies, but then you say, well, that one was cool, and that was cool, and then you start realizing that there's other Godzilla kaiju out there. War of the Gargantuas, right? Frankenstein conquers the world. King Kong, the kaiju version, which is insanely silly, but I love the longer face and the. It wasn't until recently that I ever saw. I've already forgotten the title of it. The one that Honda did, Destination. Oh my God, what was it?
Zero.
Latitude Zero.
Latitude Zero. I hadn't seen that. I didn't even know about it. And it's got like Cesar Romero in it, right?
Right.
For no damn good reason. So I love, the smog monster is like one of my favorite, weird Godzilla film creatures. So this one always appealed to me because it lived on itself out, just like War of the Gargantuas, didn't really have the, had the kind of have Godzilla roaming around in the background or even mention him. And they're fairly original. I mean, yeah, we've seen turtles before. Well, we've seen all of them before. I mean, in some form or another, or some kind of thing, but not this. Designed quite like this. I don't know. To me, this movie it's just a wonderful expression of the innocent side of loving these kaiju films. Yeah, just for being, a silly plot with silly humans because they're not really doing anything that makes sense. But who cares? You're really waiting for the man in suit to come stomping into. And what I love most is like when I want to call it a squid, but it's a cuttlefish, just slowly wanders in and smacks up that hut. Just takes his time, sticks his little
stick it through the window.
I know. He doesn't come storming in there and kick it around. He kind of slowly, like Legos, right? Just kind of playing with it, going around. And we get this long scene. And later we get to see him swim. Oh my god, no!
Oh my gosh, yeah. And die.
And die.
Just watch this movie. You're gonna have, if you love kaiju films and you haven't seen this movie,
absolutely.
It's going to be winter soon. You're going to get snowed in eventually. For
That's
many,
right. You can't go do anything, so you might as well just
grab some popcorn, some refreshments.
Do them in order. Watch Gojira and work your way all the way to
no. Just put this in. Sit down and watch
whatever you do. Don't watch Gojira and then watch this one.
Yeah. You'll either have the greatest time of your life or you'll get a really good nap.
Yeah.
One or the other. All right. That's our review of this. We'd love to hear what you think of this film. Is it one of your favorites? I'd love to see somebody say, "That's my favorite of all time." That would be wonderful. Might be Jerry. Jerry might come along and do that for us.
Now, Jerry's favorite is Megalon, Godzilla versus Megalon, which is indefensible. Just absolutely indefensible.
The hentai version of that.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry, if you're listening, please subscribe. It helps other people find us as well. Hit the like button down below. Hit the little bell if you want to know about the next one. And of course, comments. But let's do what we've been waiting for. Jeff loves to bring us our feedback, and he has 2 tonight, and I can't wait to hear it. Jeff, what's going on, sir? What do you got?
Well, we have one from our buddy Alistair Hughes in New Zealand on the Dr. Phibes Rises Again episode.
Yes.
And he says, "Dear Clockwork Grue Crew." He's always fun what he puts in here. 4 podcasters about 4 podcasts about Dr. Phibes Rises Again, and 4 shall receive feedback.
Yes.
1 shall read, 2 shall mostly listen, and 1 shall mispronounce everyone's name.
That would be Doc.
You did pretty good tonight. It's fair. What a wonderful episode. The Decades of Horror Gentlemen's Club were all in exceedingly fine form. I love the Phibes films. They both have such a wicked and witty sense of humor that you can show them to anyone, even those poor unfortunates who don't usually enjoy horror. As to which film I prefer, I tend to duck out the coward side exit and choose to regard them as 2 chapters of the same story. Abominable is probably the richer experience, but Rises Again has the cush, and they both star Uncle Vinny having the time of his life. To say nothing of Carolyn Monroe proving her goddesshood yet again by taking on a speechless, motionless role just to work with Vincent Price. Volnavia's boyfriend, aka Bill, mentioned that Volnavia herself is never explained, which adds to her mystique, of course. But there is also some unfilmed background on the character. As you mentioned, in an early draft, she was originally a vastly upgraded version of one of Phibes' Clockwork band members, created to aid the good doctor. I'm glad this was never established because, as you say, the films instead imply that she was more of a supernatural entity. In fact, in a script for yet another unfilmed sequel, The 7 Fates of Dr. Phibes, she was eventually revealed to be none other than an avatar of the goddess Athena.
I like
yes,
that.
Really. Among other unused ideas were Robert Quarry taking on Phibes in the role of AIP's other horror icon, Count Yorga, rather than Beiderbecke. I'll just leave that one there, although Phibes would have made one hell of an inventive vampire hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, great contraptions. Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
Okay, just remember, Count Yorga is the guy who, at the end of his movie, walks into a steak. Like someone's holding a steak, and he just walks into it. It would take
You
Dr.
don't have to be
Phibes.
inventive. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would take Dr. Phibes 0.8 of a second to kill Count Yorga.
Okay. And Al goes on, with at least 5 unfilmed concepts and 2 complete alternative story scripts available online.
Wow.
There was obviously a lot of life left in Anton Phibes. Unfortunately, it seems the same wasn't the case for the style of filmmaking. Ultimately, I think this is another frustrating case of a brilliant concept arriving at the right place but the wrong time. Maybe 5 years sooner, and we could probably have had a whole glorious series of Phibes films. But who knows? The moon and stars may realign to their exact positions above the river of life again one day. Thank you all for such an insightful and entertaining discussion. You're the very best of this kind of show, and long may you continue. Signing off from somewhere over the rainbow. Al.
No, nice.
Mhm.
Nice. Yes, thank you so much. Oh, I want more.
Al is the best.
He's a genuinely good writer, actually, too. You know.
Yes, he is, and even he also introduced me to Dick Clemenson, who is I believe, the creator and editor of Little Shop of Horrors magazine about British horror, and it turns out he lives only 50 miles away. So hey, we've struck up a friendship, and
Nice.
We are looking to have him on some episodes in the future.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Little Shop of Horrors is a fantastic magazine.
It's an unbelievable. It's like, I got to get my magnifying glass though, but it's like 8-point font and about 100,000 words, or no, about 80,000 words on 100 pages.
Yeah.
So
You get your money's worth when you get.
you definitely get your money's worth. Okay. Yeah, you can find that at littleshopofhorrors.com, and make sure you spell shop SHOPPE. Our second one, Doc, is on episode 124 on Equinox. And this is from Tan Tay, who was on the YouTube channel, made a comment. And he says, I remember always being fascinated by Equinox, not to mention a little repulsed at a certain moment we all know. I'm sure he's talking about the molesting by the face the guy makes. Anyway, not to mention a little repulsed at a certain moment we all know. I've been a long-time listener and am so excited to put faces with voices. When I listen to all of you, it feels like a great get-together with old friends. Thank you all so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening and watching.
People have interesting names on YouTube. I've noticed. So maybe that's their real name. I don't know.
Welcome to YouTube.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate the comments. So everybody else, if you're listening or watching us on YouTube, give us some comments.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it's interesting to note that even though 3 of us are scattered across North Carolina and 1 of us is from Iowa, we have all been in the same room together.
Mm-hmm.
We have.
Yeah.
There's pictures.
We've even broke bread together, right?
Broke bread together, yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, that's our episode tonight. A little kaiju fun. There's more kaiju to explore in the coming episodes for certain. We haven't got them all yet, even just for the 70s, which, to be fair, was only, it stopped around 75.
Yeah.
But we got Jerry's favorite still somewhere in the future.
Oh boy.
Well, that's part of my problem is
Jerry?
I think I saw, is it Ghidra? yeah.
No, that's my problem.
Quiet. Ghidra, the 3-headed monster, is that right? Or is it Ghidorah? Ghidra?
Yes.
Ghidra.
Whatever.
That one I saw when it came out at the theaters. But since then, now to me, to like go dive in, it's like, where the hell do you start? I mean, how many of these are there? You guys, is there a count somewhere?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yep.
A vast universe.
I think Santos and I counted them down one time. It took 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We'll have to look for that. All right, guys. Man, Jeff, Chad, Bill, thank you for joining me tonight. This was a great discussion. We talked so long.
Talk longer than I thought we would.
We say that every time. Why do we ever think otherwise?
I don't
It's a
It's
know.
kiss
like
of
the
death
worst
when somebody
movies
says,
they have the most to talk about. Yeah.
it's a kiss of death to say, yeah, there's not much to
Yeah.
talk about in this one.
We'll find something to
All
talk about.
right. Well, we're still doing it. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.